This beautiful candy red engine bay is from Daniel's 1964 Holden wagon, and it's pretty indicative of most of the types of cars I shoot, which are heavily modified. I don't tend to shoot much in the way of simple restoration stuff, and I don't think I've ever shot a new car. I tend to shoot all my detail stuff like this using speedlights and white shoot-through umbrellas, as opposed to the light painting stuff I use on my exterior shots. In this case, there's just a flash either side of me on full power through an umbrella, and there's also a third one underneath the front of the engine here, bare on I think 1/16th power, just to add a bit of dimension and some detail from underneath. The top of the engine there that's all shiny, it's not reflecting red because I use a simple piece of white cardboard to reflect white back down onto the shiny parts instead of the underside of the bonnet. Very simple shot. A single exposure, ISO 160, f7.1 at 1/60th of a second. This is Dave's green HB Tirana, which was the first Tirana to come to Australia, and keen eyes in the UK may recognise it as a Vauxhall Viva. It's about as far from stock as you could get, as you might be able to tell from those large rear wheels. It is a purpose-built drag car with plenty of roll cage and chassis modifications. So I wanted a pretty industrial look for it and found this beautiful factory in the Newcastle area of New South Wales. Being outside that fence there meant that we weren't on anyone's private property and didn't need any permits, although we had a few interested onlookers from inside, but they didn't seem to mind too much. It's a series of 30-second exposures, except for the factory itself. I did a few shorter ones because of the brightness of some of the floodlighting, and pieced those together with 4 or 5 exposures for the car itself, all using that same LED video light that I use, in this case, through a 60cm softbox. It wasn't too hard to piece together in Photoshop thanks to the bright background. I often use the light and blend mode. With the lighter background, it meant I didn't have to be too fiddly with the pen tool or masking or anything like that. This is Kurt's silver GTS Monaro. I got pretty lucky with the location with that rail bridge in the background. We'd been looking for a location probably for an hour without much success. Must have covered about 30 kilometres in the process, and as a result ended up with a lot of bugs stuck on the windscreen in the front of the car, which I had to clean off in Photoshop. Pretty much all the work you're seeing here, it's been light painted using a constant light source and a long exposure, walking around the car lighting the different parts of the car individually, and you can see evidence of that lighting there down the flank of the car with that white streak. This was shot a little while ago. I've since started trying to hide that streak a bit more by lighting from a higher angle or using a polarizer filter to at least minimize its effect. There's probably 4 or 5 different exposures there for the traffic streaming past. It was quite late at night, so the traffic had dwindled quite a bit, and yeah, I was quite happy with how it came out. This shot of the interior of Nathan's HR Holden Ute uses speed lights. It was shot in the afternoon in open shade. I always look for open shade when doing these kind of shots, so the bright sun doesn't pour in and create ugly shadows. I think it's shot at f8, 1/60th of a second, ISO 160, and there's 3 flashes through white shoot-through umbrellas at use here, one through each door, one to my right, one through the opposite door, and another one to my right firing through the windscreen, which I think might have been at half power. It tends to work pretty well. It gives some nice soft results, no harsh shadows or anything like that, which I think is most pleasing for this kind of subject which has a lot of detail in it. So this is Nick's VK Commodore from the mid-80s, another Holden. I shot this in behind a new industrial unit in Sydney. Industrial areas are generally really good for shooting cars at night because they're quiet, you don't have much traffic going past. Sometimes you get problems with security guards doing their regular patrols, and some of them don't like you being anywhere near the units they're protecting, which I guess is fair enough, but you know, we're never doing anything wrong. The car is lit using the video light panel, the same one as the other shots, but this one I didn't use a softbox. It was just the bare light with the included semi-opaque diffuser panel, which helps limit the look of all the tiny little LEDs streaking across the body. The background was lit using an interesting item that I found on Kickstarter a while back called a pixel stick, and it's a long strip of 180 LEDs on an extruded aluminium frame, and it comes with a little computer on it that you load up with bitmaps, and it will light up all those LEDs using the bitmaps, and they can be images, graphics like these stripes, or just a solid block of colour. If it's an image, as you walk along, it strafes that image across those 180 LEDs and paints the image into the sky in your long exposure. So all I did was simply walk around the car with this pixel stick and composited it in Photoshop behind and around the car in a couple of layers, one for the background and one for those reflections on the side of the car. And I think it turned out looking quite natural and not too fake.